All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon. In this video, Canelo Alvarez goes off on Jermall Charlo and other fake champions that do not deserve fights with him, says he's not scared, but what have these guys done? Let's talk about Canelo Alvarez and him obviously being flustered over the criticism that's coming his way. Let's talk about that in this video. Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon. All right, before I get into the video, hope you listen to the video all the way to the end, where I'm going to give you my opinion at the end. Also, but if you do, make sure you hit the like button, share, subscribe, and all that. It would really help grow the channel, and it would be greatly appreciated. All right, man, we're going to talk about, I can't even say what the weight division it is, because it's going to be Canelo Alvarez and a tweet that Canelo Alvarez put out clearly, or a quote that is put out and attributed to him, where he is clearly expressing frustration that people are getting on him about his choice of opponents and the fact that he is not fighting a lot of these guys that people want to see him fight. Now, before I go into it and what I think, let me give you it from the Canelo Alvarez point of view so that I can avoid being called a hater or whatever words Canelo Alvarez fans are going to come over and throw at me like they do every time. Canelo Alvarez has the right to fight whoever it is that Canelo Alvarez wants to fight. That is without a doubt. Canelo Alvarez is a very, very good fighter. He is most definitely the biggest draw in boxing the biggest draw in boxing right now. And as a result of the two, definitely deserves credit for what he's accomplished in his career. Okay, this is not an attempt by me or this video to try to diminish Canelo Alvarez and Canelo Alvarez's accomplishments or any of that. However, there are a bunch of fighters in the weight divisions that Canelo Alvarez has fought at that he has not fought. So people who are fans of those fighters or want to see Canelo, or fans of Canelo that want to see him fight these guys, are saying, look, you've now got your 168-pound undisputed, all of that good, fine and dandy. Now, who are you going to fight next? Okay, that is not something that is crazy to ask of any fighter. And no matter how successful Canelo Alvarez is in his career, he is never going to get past the point of boxing fans wanting him to fight specific people. That's just what it is. Now, Canelo Alvarez says, look, I'm not picking and choosing whoever I fight. I fight whoever it is that Eddie Reynoso puts in front of me. He said that he didn't know anything about the fact that they were going to say that they want him to fight up at cruiserweight against Makabu, even though that is very, very hard for me to get my head around and believe. That's what he says. So he says, I don't pick the fighters. I'm a warrior for Eddie Reynoso. Eddie Reynoso picks the fighters. But not everybody else is a warrior for Eddie Reynoso. So when he says and talks about, why, and this is Canelo saying that he is not scared of these other fighters, and he says, who of these other guys beaten? How many what champions have they beat? And how many champions have they beaten, right? So I'm interpreting that when he says it to mean I don't have any duty to fight these guys because what have they accomplished in their career? And that's like I said, that's fine and dandy. No, Canelo Alvarez does not have to fight any particular person. Doesn't have to. There's no law out there saying you need to do it. And he most certainly has had good fights in his career and deserves the accolades that he's had. However, the question can also be asked, of the last several people that you fought, who have they beaten? How many champions have they beaten? So it seems to me that you have a standard for the people that you do fight that is different than the standards for the people that you do not fight, right? So in the instance of Jermall Charlo, right, who is clearly part of this group of people that he's saying, how many champions have you beaten, right? And who have you beaten and what champions have you beaten? He has beaten just as many champions as Billy Joe Saunders has. He's beaten just as many champions as Callum Smith has. He's beaten just as many champions and more champions than Rocky Fielding has. He's beaten more champions than Yaldemir has. So he's beaten as many champions as Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. beat. So, you know, I'm not quite sure why when you go and fight, or take, for example, Makabu. He's beaten as many champions as Makabu has fought. So if you're going to fight Makabu, if you're going to fight Rocky Fielding, if you're going to fight Callum Smith and Billy Joe Saunders, and they don't have any more wins against, they ain't anywhere near the anywhere closer to making the Hall of Fame than David Benavidez is, and Jermall Charlo is, or Beterbiev is, or Bivol is. It kind of seems like it's a moot point. Just because you have achieved more than everybody does not mean that nobody else has the right to ask for a fight, right? And more importantly, just like you have, Canelo Alvarez has the right to choose whoever he wants to fight, because that, as long as they are willing to fight him, right? He can fight whoever he wants to fight as long as that person is willing to fight him. Same right can go to the other people. They have the right to ask to fight anybody. And if Canelo Alvarez turns it down, he turns it down. But you cannot tell me that these guys are not people that should be taken seriously when they say that they want to fight Canelo. Jermall Charlo is a serious challenge to Canelo Alvarez. David Benavidez is a serious challenge to Canelo Alvarez. So is Beterbiev. So is Bivol. Those guys are all people that joined the sport, that came into the sport of boxing, trying to make money and trying to fight other champions. And if Canelo Alvarez is that man, Canelo Alvarez should not get in his feelings about other fighters wanting to fight him, or fans of those fighters saying, look, man, we're questioning what you're doing because you're not fighting the guys that we want to see you fight. Now, as far as Jermall Charlo goes, and when he talks about Jermall Charlo, right, Jermall Charlo came out and said, look, man, I want to fight Canelo Alvarez, but this guy just doesn't want to fight. All right, Canelo Alvarez, what more can Jermall Charlo do to get a Canelo Alvarez fight than he already did? He won when Canelo Alvarez is at 154 pounds. Charlo was a champion at 154 pounds. They didn't fight for a unification there. He moved up to 160. When he got to 160, he became the mandatory for Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez wouldn't fight him then. Got the franchise championship to get himself out of that. Jermall Charlo was an undefeated fighter. He's beaten everybody that's in front of him. Now, what could he do? He could go and fight Demetrius Andrade and say, okay, well, I beat another champion in Demetrius Andrade. I become undisputed, and maybe that may help him in that regard. And he could go, and if he can get a fight with Gennady Golovkin, fight Gennady Golovkin, and that may help him in his career. But even if he does that, there's still no guarantee that Canelo Alvarez is going to fight him. Because Canelo Alvarez can always still say, I've achieved more than you. Because that's what his measuring stick is. You know, let me compare my resume to your resume. See how many more champions I fought than you. Do you see how many more belts I have than you? So you don't deserve to fight with me. But the problem is that that's the case with 99% of the people in those weight classes. Or actually, that's the case with 100% of the people in those weight classes, with the exception maybe of Gennady Golovkin. So nobody at light heavyweight has done what Canelo Alvarez has done. Nobody at cruiserweight has done what he's done. Nobody at 168 or nobody at 160. So is it just going to be a scenario where nobody gets to fight with Canelo because nobody's achieved as much as Canelo? If Canelo would fight the guys, then these guys might have an opportunity to beat that champion with those accolades, right? But, you know, I don't see it happening. Personally, what I think is that they're on a victory lap. But again, Canelo Alvarez doesn't owe, people who are Canelo Alvarez fans are right. Canelo Alvarez does not owe a fight to anybody. You know, he made his way in boxing from a very early age, got where he is because he deserves to be where he is, right? So he deserves to make the decisions in his career that he wants to make. However, you can't shoot down other guys for aiming at you, or other fan bases for wanting to see that guy fight their guy. Because until you actually get in the ring, truth be told, you don't know how the fight is going to go. And just saying that Canelo Alvarez is going to beat anybody, it's like, yeah, you keep saying that, but let's see him fight the guys, right? unless you're saying it's time for Canelo Alvarez to retire because he has nothing to prove, at which point in time, if he retires, hey, man, nobody will be calling you out. Nobody will be doing that, right? But then it is what it is. All of those belts will be available for somebody else to get. And when somebody else earns and starts piling up those accolades, they're going to get the things that Canelo Alvarez currently has. And therefore somebody else will then start challenging them. And that's the way the ball goes around. You know what I mean? But anyway, that's my take on the circumstance. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.